Now, what lessons can we learn from those who have gone to a microservices architecture? There are enough of them, and they've been pretty generous with their advice and sharing what they've learned out of it. So I happen to come across articles from people who have worked for Netflix, eBay, Amazon, and Google. And these were all monolithic platforms not that long ago. eBay was a monolithic Perl application, Twitter started as a Rails application, Amazon started as a C++ application. There's no comment on what Google started out as, but it wasn't the microservices application. So they all started in the normal fashion, and they've all had to face this challenge of shifting architecture. Now, the first observation is that a microservices architecture tends not to have a central architecture function. That is, the organization doesn't have a central architecture office. The architecture office got to be a bottleneck and pretty much unnecessary once the application was broken up, because now we've got small ones. So the central architecture disappeared, and the comment was, it's better to have all these very bright people working on very useful things, such as a library or a tool or a set of guidelines, defining a good API. This is the kind of thing that is very useful. And if you do it well enough, people will follow. There also tends to arise standardization rather than central control. And this is because the whole thing about standards is people are trying to solve the same problem, and if they're aware of it, they will tend to gravitate toward the best solution. So the best solution tends to become the standard, and this is something that happens in the microservices architecture, is that people share their solutions enough, and people pick up on good ones, and so those good ones tend to become the standard. But it is a pull standard, a bottom-up standardization, rather than a centrally imposed top-down push standardization. So in Google, in network protocols, the standardization tends to involve network protocols and serialization. Now, Google uses Stubby for its network protocol. eBay uses RESTful HTTP for serialization. Google uses protocol buffers, and eBay uses JSON. There are others. So the point about that is that there isn't one best one. It's just whatever suits you at the time and whatever you want to standardize on. Now, building a service as a service owner, a well-performing service in a large-scale ecosystem has a single purpose, a simple and well-defined interface, and is very modular and independent. This is what these big companies have come down to. A service owner goals are to provide client functionality, quality software, stable performance, and reliability over time. These should improve, and that is because you've got the one team looking after the one service, and they will want to make it better. Usually they want to give better service, make it much more reliable, more resilient, more efficient, high performance, and this tends to create some pretty good code. Using the DevOps approach, the team owns the service from its creation to its disposal. This, again, is this repeated observation that you put in microservices and suddenly DevOps comes into play, and the team then owns the whole thing, cradle to grave. Having to support a service encourages the team to get better at it. Yeah, as I said, you get called up in the middle of the night a few times, you tend to write your code better. Now, there was a very interesting observation about anti-patterns for microservices, and there were two. One is when the service tries to do too much, and we're getting into a mini monolith. It gets to the point where it gets to be difficult to change, scary to change. And the dependencies upstream and downstream are increased. So all the reasons why you went to microservices in the first place tend to creep in, and this is because people want to say, well, let's put this function in this microservice, and we'll add another function. No, we can do this one as well. All the same pressures are there, that created this big monster of a monolith application in the first place. So it is something to be aware of, that there is the tendency to build bloated microservices, and it is to be resisted. The other thing that tends to come up from time to time is the shared persistence, where shared persistence does break the encapsulation, and it unwittingly reintroduces coupled services. Now, it's always easy. It's always very tempting. Why don't I just do a little bit of horizontal communication? I'll get the answer, because it's difficult and not impossible to do it, going up through the hierarchy. Well, the reason why you do that or don't do that is this is what led to microservices in the first place. So just don't do it. Don't have this horizontal dependencies, shared persistence through the thing.